been promoted at some point in your life? Yeah, probably most of you, I hope. How many of you were promoted because of your ability to ask questions and to explore ideas? Or how many of you were promoted because of what you could get done, and how quickly you could get it done, and how quickly we could move it? Right? This is why a lot of organizations actually struggle with innovation, is because we promote the people who are good doers, but not necessarily the people who are good dreamers. And then we wonder why most of the room didn't raise their hand when I asked, is innovation a priority? The reason this is so unbelievably important is because every single great idea that has ever happened, period, came from the place of exploration. It came from a single mindset, and that mindset is curiosity. Every single invention, innovation, anything you can think of, we could trace it back to the moment one person or a group of people got curious and said, how do we do it differently? So if that's what we've already done before, how do we do it differently? All right, curiosity, a desire to learn new things, and my favorite part of this, to know the unknown. And what I would add, my little serif flavoring, is that it's also an awareness that there is always unknown. We've all worked for people who didn't have this awareness, who thought they had it all figured out. So if curiosity is this desire to learn new things and to know the unknown and to know that there will always be unknown, how does it show up? It shows up in asking questions. It shows up in attending to our judgments. It shows up in taking the time to come to events like this to learn about different things that you might not normally learn about, right? So you can make those connections. Do you know there's not actually such a thing as a new idea? There isn't. Every idea that, it might feel new to us, but that idea is actually the combination of a conversation you had, a book you read, an experience you had that you just happened to pull together in a new way, and that's what creates the new idea. And so if we're willing to lean into that and get and build this muscle of curiosity, we can have more of those new combinations. How many of you have been in the situation where you were presented a problem and we jumped right into brainstorming? Raise your hands. How many of you have been in that situation, right? Not that that's wrong, but it's not as effective. We seek certainty instead of possibilities. How many of you at your company in the last year or two or a couple of years have made some declaration, have talked about or actually taken action to say, we're going to become more innovative as a company? Let me see my show of hands. Just, oh. Now, okay, I have to test it. Did you not raise your hand because you don't like raising your hand in public? Or did you not raise your hand because you're actually truly already innovative and you're like, you're good? Or did you not raise your hand because you don't talk about innovation? How many of you don't talk about innovation enough in your companies? Oh, interesting. That's really interesting. You know, here's the reality, is that we are in a time, like all of us are in a time where we are having to change and adapt, and that goes for all industries, at speeds we've never ever experienced before. So for those of you who are not intentionally thinking about innovation, there will likely come a point where you have to, because your competitors already are. They're already thinking about it. Let me just give some perspective of how quickly things have changed. If you were to take a guess, what do you think the lifespan was of a company back in 1958? Like, what would you say? Like, what's the lifespan of a company in 1958? What do you think? How many? 80. 80 years, pretty close. Yeah, 60 years. So in 1958, really pretty close. It really was. Is that not close? I think that's pretty close. That's not close. You're like, that's not close at all. I think that's pretty close. So in 1958, the average lifespan of a company was 60 years. That number dropped to 35 by 1980. By 2012, it dropped down to 20 years. Do you know what it is current day? 15. Because the rate of disruption is happening so fast. Technology is happening at an exponential rate. So I want you to face your partner like this. So Kristen, face me. So you're going to face your partner like this. And I want you to stick your hand out like this. Okay? Pretty simple so far. You with me? You're going to curl your fingers like this, and you're going to lock them. Okay? See where I'm going? All right. Now just wait. Just wait. You don't even know what I'm going to do next. correct. Your brain's like, I know, so I'm going to do it. See, you're all addicted to being right. All right. Your objective is to get your partner to put their thumb down. Go. We have some stubborn stalemates. I'm concerned for their safety over there. There's a lot of aggressive moves happening. Thumb war. How many of you, be honest, how many of you played thumb war? Raise your hand. Oh, like the majority of you. Perfect. I may have set this up to encourage you to play thumb war. But here's what's interesting, is I didn't say thumb war, and yet your brain went, oh, this is familiar. I know the solution, right? Here's what we need to know and love about our brains, is that our brains have mental models, or we have these ingrained rules that may or may not actually exist. In fact, this is part of what I love our brain. Like, I love our brain. Our brains are beautiful and complex and chaotic. But we have these rules, and so when we are faced with a problem that feels familiar, we jump to a familiar solution. And is a familiar solution going to be the most innovative one? Not always. And so we have to recognize this is part of what gets in the way of our curiosity. It's just the fact that our brain wants to solve problems, and it's going to go to my file of, oh yeah, thumb war, I know how to play this. It's on, right? So the rule that you created was this was a competition. I didn't say it was a competition, right? If we were to create and to be curious, how else might we accomplish this objective? Bribe them. I want to be your partner. I take 10s and 20s. What else could we do? Suggest a win-win situation up front. Yep. But if I'm in thumb war mode, that is not going to fly unless I recognize that that's a mental model I've created. What else could we do? What's one more? Reward them. Perfect. What about, like, we could have turned our thumbs over because I didn't clearly define what it meant to put someone's thumb down. What if I said, hey, you have a really ugly thumb? I put it down, right? Like I insulted it. I didn't, right? We didn't define that. See, yeah, it's taking you a bit. You'll pick up on it. Thank you so much for your time today and happy learning.